Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to grecochess, the channel of chess. In this video, one more puzzle rush. After defeating Antonio from the chess bots, we are now in the advanced chess bots, and we just have defeated the first two of them. Take a break with the puzzle rush. We'll try to beat a record of 50. How does this play? Chess.com is going to give us one puzzle after another, and they'll continue providing them until we get 3 of them wrong. See how many can we do right before we have the third of them wrong. Until now, the best score we've had was a few puzzle rushes ago. We hit 50. Can we do better this time? And also, I'd like to suggest to viewers to pause the video when you see the puzzle and try to solve it yourselves. And then compare to my solution, see if you get it right or wrong. See how many can you do. And please, in the comments, tell us what was your experience. And have you tried the puzzle rush by yourselves on your own? And what was your best score? We'd like to know more about that. But let's share the screen and let's go to the puzzle rush of chess.com. And here we are. We are using what's called the survival mode. If you see, there are 3 options to the right: 3 minutes, 5 minutes to survival. If you hit 3 minutes, you can have all the puzzles correct, but once you use 3 minutes of your time, it's over. 5 minutes, same thing, but you have now 5 minutes. And survival means that who cares about time? You can continue forever until you hit the third puzzle wrong. And since we want to have time to discuss them with you and to explain the thoughts, I can only afford to have the survival. You see top score 59 here a long time ago, once I hit 59, but I'm not counting it because there was an error in the puzzles, and the same puzzles appeared again and again and again. So I'm not counting that as my record. My real record is a 50 I had a few videos ago. But let's start. I'm hitting the play button and let's see what's the first puzzle. And just to tell you, the first 2 of them are usually very easy. In 1 or at most 2 moves, checkmate. After that, they're going to be tougher and tougher. And here's the first one. Here you see that white is to play. You see the word white. And what white is going to do, it is clear that there is only one thing they can do. Take the black queen. And then the pawn is further than the black ones. Will you have to show the pawn race? Yep, we got it right. Second one. Once again, pause if you like, but it's quite simple. White has checkmate in 1 move. Queen from e4 goes to e8, takes a rook, and it's checkmate back rank. Third one. Same story, but this time we don't get a piece. Pawn from d3 goes to d1, checkmate. No, we need 2 moves because the rook can postpone to 1 move. Something similar here, but instead of rook, we're using the queen. Queen goes from b8 to b1 check. And black stops 1 move, but it's checkmate. Let's continue now. This is a little bit more, let's call it complicated. It's not a back rank, but it's made in 2 moves, I believe. First move, pawn goes from g4 to g5. And second, king will go to h5. Let's make some arrows if we can do it. Yep. Yep. And yep. These are the 3 moves. Next move. Here it is what is called the kiss of death. The black queen support in g6 supported by the black rook on g8 is going to take the pawn on g2 and checkmate the white king. The white king cannot take the queen because supported by the rook and has nowhere to go. Next one. This is what is called a battery. You have bishop c3, queen d4 on the same diagonal. Queen will go to h8 and check. The king cannot take the queen because supported by the bishop. And king has nowhere to go because the rook of f on f7 covers the only square where the king might have been able to go otherwise. Let's see here what's happening. Here, similar battery, bishop d6 and queen e5. They'll check the king at h2, and the rook on f1 blocks the only escape square. If the rook was not there, the king would go to f1, but then the next move would have been made. But no, we don't even need that. Let's see here what is happening. White to play. I don't see any check. There is one. Yep. Queen goes from d3 to c4 check, but then what can black do? How many legal moves they have? One, queen goes to the first. Let's put the arrow to see what's happening. Yes, and now one legal move is queen goes here, but clearly if that's happening, we'll take the queen. Let's see another possibility. Rook goes to f7, but then queen will take the rook, and we win at least a rook and most likely checkmate. And let's see the third possibility. Queen goes to c4, king goes to h8. This is the most exciting because then next move, knight goes to f7 check and threatens the queen. If the rook takes it, the queen will go to then let's see what will happen. Is there a mate for queen to go to c8 or can the queen just take? I think the queen better take the rook, that I would do. But let's see what exactly is happening. See if we get it right. We're not always right, and please feel free to think for yourselves. Many times in the past, I've had many errors in these videos. Now, knight goes to f7. No, we don't have smaller mate. Queen cannot go to g8. And now, if queen goes to c8, now we'll see what happens. Black can stop it either the rook on f8 or the bishop on f8, and there's no follow-up. So I think the best thing is queen takes the rook. Yes. Next one. This is one of the mating patterns. The knight on g5 blocks the f7 square and also controls the h7 square. So queen goes to h7, it's mate in one move. Rook on f8 does not allow the king to escape. Here, this is what is called the lateral mate, the G and H files. The black rook will go from d3 to h3, and I don't think that white can stop the mate. Next one. The only check I see is queen goes to a3. I'm going to point the arrow. But then king can go to b1. Yes, but then we have the rook will go from f8 to b8, and I think this is mate. Let's give a look. Goes here. And queen now will go to b2 and it's mate. We finished the first line, you see, the first row, 12 correct, starting from the easiest, that was only 167, and the toughest until now is 732, but they'll become even tougher. And this is what is called another case of the back rank, but not so simple, because first queen has to go to f2, king goes to h1, then queen goes from f2 to f1, rook will take, and then the rook will go from f8 to f1. See if this is the case. No guarantee we're correct. Sometimes we are, sometimes we are not. We got it. Next one. Here, the queen cannot just take the rook on h7, even though there is a rook on h1 supporting, because we have the knight on f8. So what we need to do is queen takes the knight on f8. And then what happens? I don't see any escape for black. Good. Next one. Here, a queen is attacked by the knight on c3. If it was not for that, the mate is very easy. But now the queen, meaning queen will go to e4, but now queen will take the knight on e5. If this happens, what can white do? King cannot go to f1. If it goes to d1, queen can go to h5 and check again. No, 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 sorry. Then bishop goes to f3. Let's see. This, this, and this should be made. But so if queen takes on e5, king has nowhere to go, but can white block it? Of course, if they put the knight on e4, white queen just take it. What if knight goes to e2? Let's give a look at this one. Then, can the bishop go to f3? The black bishop. I think so. But what can the but since white doesn't have a check, white could send their queen to c8. Well, it's not a mate. The king can go to e7, but white could start. I think that's it. After that, they don't even have a check. Let's see what's going to happen. Yes, that's what's happened. Now, is bishop going from g2 to f3 as safe choices? Let's show the arrow. They threaten with mate. White cannot stop it directly, but they can check with their queen, going to c8 check. King goes to e7. And queen has no, queen can go back to b7, but I think eventually the black king is going to escape the checks. Let's see if this is the answer, but there's a big chance we may get it wrong. Correct? How can we stop it? Any better way than king going to e7? I don't think. I think this is the only move. Yes, we got it right. 15 correct. What is happening here? There's only one way for white to check. Pawn goes from h4 to g3, but then king can take it back. And then knight is going to go, look at that. After king takes it back, knight goes to e2 check, and then knight win the rook. What else can white do instead of taking the pawn? They can go to g1 or h1, but then the pawn will continue its way. But I think this is the first move. Okay, so white decided to take the pawn. So we got 16 correct. Let's see how many more can we do. Here, there are many ways for white to do the check, but I think the best one, or that the safest, is if queen goes from h6 to h4 check. And what can it's mate. The white king cannot go here, 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 because the knight, here because the queen, not here because I think that's mate. It's a one move mate. Queen goes from h6 to h4. Let's continue now. How many more can we do? Here, the pawn on g5 is attacking a queen on h6. Do we have a check? I don't see so. If the knight takes the queen, excuse me, if the knight from h5 takes the rook on g3, the pawn from g5 takes a queen on h6. Is there a follow-up? Knight can go to e2 check, but then so what? We need to think seriously about that. It's not an easy one. The other knight from e6 can go to g5, but there is no check. Let's see material, how are we doing? Black has queen, two rooks, and two knights. White has queen, two rooks, two bishop, and a knight. Pawn 5, 6. So what's happening is that white has an extra pawn, so we cannot just win a pawn here and there and be happy about that. Can we threaten the white queen? We could only threaten with the knight going from e6 to d4. Can black save the queen as an attack? Not easy, because g6 attacked by the bishop on d3, f6 by the two pawns, g7 or f8 maybe. I think the best way is if the knight goes from e6 to g5 and threatens a check from f3. Check threatens a lot of things. Threatens the knight takes a rook. I would start with the knight taking on g5 and see how white will react. Yes, correct. They don't even ask for a follow-up. This is bishop goes from c4 to f7, and I think it's made because the queen on d1 controls the d7 square. The bishop, of course, is supported by the knight on g5. That's why he cannot take it. Here, there are many ways to do check. For example, the knight can go to e7, the rook can go to g6, the rook can go to h8, but I don't think that these have any follow-ups. What if the rook goes from g1 to h1 and threatens mate? It threatens mate to h8, but if the pawn on g6 takes the knight on f5, the rook goes back and it's mate. Let's see if this is the answer. Yes, just a rook from h1 goes back to g1 and it's a mate. We're continuing now. We finish the first 20. What do we need to do? Oh, if the rook goes to h7, it is mate for white. Some of them are too easy. One move checkmate. But we need to be careful. Just because it looks easy doesn't mean it is easy. What can we do here? If pawn goes from b4 to b3 checking and only go to h1. It's two moves then. Look what's going to happen. This is a series of moves. It's not exactly back rank because the king is not blocked by the pawn, but it's a combination of things. Our pawn is playing a crucial role and completing the back rank. Good. Let's go to the next one. Queen is in a very nice position h3, and if it could only take the knight on h2 with immunity, it's a mate. If the knight goes from f6 to g4, we threaten with mate, but white can reply with not with the knight, it's pinned, but with the bishop. We win the bishop, and then checkmate. The queen perhaps can take, but still checkmate on h2. Let's see. Yes, that's it. Next one. If queen goes from b5 to b2, it's a check, supported by the rook, of course, on e2. King goes to d1, and then queen goes to d2, and it's mate. That's right. At this point, we completed the first two rows that you see here, starting from the easiest 167 puzzle, going until 1338, the 24th. No errors. We continue with 24 out of 24 correct. What can we do here? Materially, we're down 3 pawns, so better make sure that the attack is successful. And I think the best way is if queen goes from d6 to e6, because if the king goes to h8, rook goes to d8 mate. If the king goes to f8, again rook goes to d8 mate. So no matter what happens, rook will go to d8. '25. We hit half of the record, half of the 50. This looks like a Greek gift. What is a Greek gift? We are going to see what it is now. First, bishop will go from d6 to h2. And if king takes it, otherwise white loses at least a pawn. The knight goes to g4 d4. Queen cannot take it because of the bishop, otherwise the queen is lost. If king goes back, queen goes to h4. If king goes to g3, it's going to be tough. What we have is the possibility for the knight to leave the square and do a discover check and threaten the queen. But what if white sends a pawn to d4? But let's see what's happening. Is there anything else? Nothing I can see. Yes, yes. Oh, white decided to lose their queen for 2 pieces. Perhaps the most realistic answer for white. What can black do here? If queen goes to h3, we threaten mate on g2, but how can white reply? The only reply I see is if rook goes to e2, but then we win the rook. Something else. No, there is nothing else. I thought that white was threatening discover check. They don't have the time because they have 2 pieces between the king, excuse me, their queen and our king. So let's do queen goes to h3. We win the rook, and not only win the rook, we threaten mate on f1. Yes, we got it. Let's continue. If bishop would go from b7 to a8, we threaten mate on b7. The problem is that black is to play, and they can perhaps check with the bishop. Knight takes it. And then queen cannot take it because a queen will take it. So I think the first move is bishop goes to a8. No! We got the first one wrong. After 27 correct, we have the first one wrong. This is a standard pattern of knights and rooks. You're going to see, we'll have to sacrifice a little bit. Knight will go first of all to e7 check, king to h8, nowhere to go. Rook to h7 check, king will take it. Let's start again with the arrows. And this is going to be made. Yes, that is a pattern. One rook will be sacrificed, so the other rook with the knight can deliver the checkmate. See, here is the rook sacrifice, and then the other rook comes here. No, one more move. Oh, we have to take the bishop, but still mate. What do we do here? What if the knight goes to e7? The knight cannot go to e7 because the knight on c6 will take it. Otherwise, it's mate, really. If the knight goes to f6, let's see, that is the answer, I think. Queen can take the knight. There's no other legal move. And then a queen goes to h7 mate. Let's see. Yes. 29. Let's continue the 30th puzzle. 29 out of 30 correct until now. If rook goes to h6 checks, then the king cannot take it because the rook on a1. The queen can go to c6 check. Yes, and then let's see. Then queen goes to c7 check. And let's mate. Let's see. Yes. And now rook goes to a6 mate. Cool. Here. Where to move? Got 30 out of 31 correct. Let's see how many more can we do. If knight takes knight, a queen or bishop takes knight, and so what? If queen takes pawn from d3 to f5, it's not easy to see what will happen. King will take queen, clearly. And then bishop goes to d3 check. Where can black go? Nowhere, I think. Yes, so I think that is the answer. It's a difficult mate to see because sacrificing the queen at the center of the board is not the first move that comes to anybody's mind. 2 moves made, but a tough one to see. Why to play? What can white do? Two moves made. First move is queen. Excuse me. White has two rooks. White is in material way down. White has 10, 11. Black is 9, 14, 17, 20, 23. More than twice white's material. But white is winning because rook is going to g7 check, king to f8, and rook goes to h8. And let's see. Now, what do we do here? If not so easy. If rook, there are three ways to check. But if the rook goes from e7 to e2, nothing comes after that. The king will take the rook and that's it. What else? If knight goes, he has two squares. If it goes to c4, the pawn will take the knight. I don't think that this is a good one. If knight goes to e4, check. King cannot go to c3, it's occupied by the knight. If it goes to e3, the knight will go to g3, discover check, and win the rook. Go a little bit like that, and then that. Anything else? What if the king goes to, if it goes to c1, black takes the knight on e2. If it goes to d1 or e1, that is an interesting case. No, let's say it cannot. If knight goes to e4, that is the original assumption. If king goes to e1, knight goes to c2, we have a fork, we win the rook. I think then knight can go to f2 and we have double attack. But let's see, I cannot see anything better than that. Yes. Here, what do we do? We'd like a knight from e4 to go either to c3 or g3. I have double attack on the rook. The problem is that the black rook on d3 will take a knight. Here we have something interesting. One needs to give a look at the board and check all possibilities, and that takes time and skill. I think the knight goes to f2 and threatens both rooks. We have a fork. It's protected, of course, by the rook here. Let's see if this is the answer. Yes, and we win the other rook. Yes. What do we do here? If queen goes to g4 because of the pin, the pawn cannot take it, but threatens a mate. But what can black do? White needs to check because if the queen stays on g4 waiting for the next move, the knight can go, for example, it can go to f3. And there is a fork, king and queen, and if the rook takes it, then the pawn will take a queen. If the rook takes the pawn, the check, h3. Queen can go here and check. King takes the pawn. That's it. And then queen takes a pawn. So first we sacrifice the rook for a pawn. These sacrifices, one needs to look at them very carefully in the game to check them. Because while in puzzles, usually these are the keys to the answers. In real chess games, most times they don't work. Most times you'll end up losing a piece. The opponent will find a defense. And you'll go to a losing end game with less material. That's the difference between puzzles and real games. But I think this is the answer here. Yes, we got it right. Here, material, we have the same. Now we have one extra pawn, but this doesn't mean too much. They are doubled pawns, the F pawns. But we can win the bishop on E7. There are two ways to do it, either with the queen or with the rook. Which is best? If we take it to the rook, pawn goes, let's do the diagrams. Let's do the arrows. If the rook takes it, then the pawn comes here, a queen is attacked, is blocked, and once the queen goes to safety, if it defines safety, then we lose our rook. We lost an exchange. Now, what happens if queen takes? What black can do is put either of the rooks on E8. But then we win two rooks and a bishop for a queen. I think that's a good trade. Of course, the queen takes it back, our rook will take the queen. Yes, exactly, that's the trade we're doing. We are giving a queen for two rooks and a bishop, and since the queen counts as 9 pawns, and the rooks as 5 and the bishop as 3, we win 13 pawns for 9. Of course, this this, let's say, counting method is not always correct. Sometimes pieces have different values, but most of the times it is. Let's see here what's happening. We finished the first 3 rows. We have 35 out of 36. How many more can we do? We see that the rook on E8 is threatened. So either we sacrifice the rook, or we move it away, or we check to postpone a dilemma. If we check, then the other rook will take a rook. What happens if we exchange the rooks on the E file and then our rook from E8 goes to E4? We threaten the rook on H4. The rook, the knight, I'm sorry. The knight has 2 squares to escape, F3 and F5. What if we, I don't see what can we do in either case. If we exchange rooks and the rook goes from E8 to C8, where can the knight go? It has a couple of squares, E6 or D5. If the bishop takes on G2, both the knight and the king can take on G2 if the light color bishop. Same material, so if we win even one piece, we are ahead. We should be doing well. I think that the only chance for a first move is exchange the rooks. What can't see anything any other way, and I don't even know how to continue after that. Let's see if this is correct. Yes, it's a correct beginning, but how do we continue? That is a big story. We threaten the knight. He has 2 squares to go. And then threaten the knight. And then the knight goes to C4. We threaten the other knight. We can win a pawn maybe on A5, but this is enough to win the game. I want to give check possibilities for white. So for the time being, the best move B rook goes to c8 and threatens the knight. The knight has two safe squares to escape. Okay, in one of them we'll put again the rook on d8. Can't think of anything else. Nope, wrong. We got two wrong after 35 correct. What do we do here? The knight can go to f3 to check, and then king goes, if knight goes to f3 check, king goes to f1. And then, this is a big and then question. Queen will check from b5. How can white reply? Not really. They can postpone the mate a couple of moves, the pawn going here or the rook going here, but that's it. This shows that in a game, no matter what is the material balance, we must make sure that the king is safe, and not only immediate checkmate, but even checkmate in 3 or 4 moves. And it's not easy always to check it, because basically we have to check every possible move of the opponent. Queen goes to b5. I think that's the case. Take the pawn, and we'll take the rook, and that's it. It's not a one move mate. It would be if it was not for the knight on e3. Queen could go to g2, but it's not so easy as that. There is no follow-up if the knight takes a queen. Got 36 out of 38. Oh, we have to sacrifice the queen. Queen goes to h2, check. King takes a queen. Rook goes to h6, check. King goes back to h2, and then rook goes to h1. Let's see if this is the answer. This seems to be the most plausible one. Good, 37 out of 39. Here, what do we do? We definitely, no, we don't even have a perpetual. If rook goes to d7, king goes to e8, and then so what? If rook from c7 takes to c8, king takes back, and then a rook can go to a7. And it would be a mate if the would go a little bit further and go down in the first rank, but that's not the case. We could occupy the open d file. That's good, but only long-term advantage. Here goes here, king goes to e8, and then rook takes rook, and we win 2 rooks. Let's see. I think that's the answer. It's not a long-term. It is here. Second takes, and then a rook takes. So we win 2 rooks for the price of 1. That's it. 38 out of 40 until now. What next is here? Here I think we can win a pawn. This is an opening trap because you have the bishop on g4 pinning the knight of f3, but no knight protecting the bishop. So if I bishop from c4 takes on f7 check, if king takes, we can have, let's do them again. The knight can go to g5 check, and finally we win the bishop on g4. Let's see if this works. In real life, it may not work, and in real games, most times these things don't work. Be a knight on f6 or who knows where, or some other thing, and you'll not be able to take your piece back with your queen. You're going to lose a queen now. But in this game, in puzzles, usually they work because something must work. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a puzzle. And I think this is the answer here. Anything better than winning the bishop? I don't think so. And they have a very strong attack, by the way. Here. White has no queen, but white has a strong attack. Material thing it is white has 19 and black has 26 if I count correctly. But what can white do to start the attack? If the rook goes from e1 to e8, king goes to f7. Then we win the rook, but it is enough to we win the rook, but that's not enough to win the game because then black has a very strong attack and still they're a little bit ahead, not so much like before, but they are. What if we send the rook from d1 to d8? King goes to f7, nowhere else. And then have a bishop go to e8 check. King has to go back, no other escape, and then we'll have a discover checkmate, I believe. Let's see if this will work. Wrong. Oh, yeah, I didn't see the rook here. Oh, yeah, yeah. Would the answer be the bishop goes to d5 check? Yes, that would be the mate. Oh, yeah, yeah, we missed it. This one we saw it immediately after that. But let's give a look at the three we got wrong. We send the bishop to a8 and the computer doesn't like it. Yes, the king can go to c8. Could it be, let's try again. Could it be if the bishop went to a6? Nope, neither of that. We'll have to look at the solution then. Oh, bishop. Yeah, we didn't appreciate the dark colored bishop that would start to check on a7 and sacrifice itself to give us the mate. No luck here. Let's see the next one here. Try to see if we can do it now. We change the rooks, as I remember, was the first move. Let's see the solution again. I think we hit the solution of the play. Let's see what happens. We change rooks, yes. Next move. We threaten the rook, but from another angle, another direction. That was it. And the last one, I think I know the answer. The last one, and right. This was the correct first move. And the second move was this one. Yes, that is it. We found the answer a little bit too late. Unfortunately, in chess, if you find the answer a little bit too late, it's not good enough. Many times you play a move and immediately after you finish your move, you see that was the wrong and that was a better move. But you cannot do it. That's why we need to train ourselves to see them the first time. We got 39 correct. Didn't make a record, but we learned quite a lot. I hope you learned with us. Please write in the comments what do you think about it. Did you learn anything? How well you can do in these puzzles? And what is next? Let's look at the play tournaments, how the tournaments are going. The two tournaments, well, I'm participating many tournaments, as you see, but we want the daily ones. And we want the ones that I'm participating. We want the current and my tournaments. Let's see, this is 2026, the annual one. I made it the second round with a little bit of luck. 2,319 games remain. Let's see the other ones. The Greco chess, the one that I'm hosting. Here, we're one game away from the end. If you see here, it is the same one of Maxim Govoruka with the white versus Barak 7 the black. Barak 7 is a tie, needs a draw to win the tournament, and Maxim Govoruka needs a win to tie it, and then we'll proceed with the tie-breaking procedure. Let's see the other one with the Italian subscriber, how it is going. Zorolan, let's see his name. I don't want to mess up the name. Underwater Moonlight is the name. We are in the second round. 28 players out of the 81 continue. Zanilor is the host, and in the first group, there are 4 groups of 7 players each. 3 advance. Maxim Govoruka has guaranteed his advancing, and there's a detail because Zanilor has not completed any of his games. So really, Maxim Govoruka is almost guaranteed, but not completely. Group 2 has not finished yet. There are a few games remaining, 3 games remaining, but we know who advances. Möbius from Nigeria, PG74 from Italy, and Mathis B 2008 from France. Group 3. Here, Iraq Lion has guaranteed to advance with 9.5 points, and 3 more players, Chinan Fu and Team Rocket and David 8 times 8 times 8 times 8 are fighting for the last 2 positions in Group 4. Lisitia Vantres and Vivaladivia 5 from Japan and India, respectively, have secured the advancement. But that's it for now. What else? With next video, assuming nothing unexpected happens, we are playing with the bots. And which bots is next? It's going to be Pierre from France with the white pieces. This is going to be the next video. For now, thanks everybody for watching. Thanks to all the viewers, the comments, the likes, and the subscribers. We have more subscribers every little in a while. If you have not done so, please consider subscribing so you can be notified of all the videos. This is Harry Lasaniziris and the Greco Chess YouTube channel. And for now, once again, goodbye.